I think it's important to shatter wrongthink wherever you find it, in actual fact. And I can see that quite a percentage of wrongthink does exist within the ranks of nationalism. Some people still have this mistaken belief, and where on earth they got it from, I don't know. But whoever started this belief system needs to be expunged from nationalism permanently, quite frankly, because it's just aiding and abetting the enemy. This whole concept of, we need to get reform, your deep fake reform in inverted commas, yeah? There was so little reform you'll barely be even able to notice it. We need to get deep fake reform, not their argument. They say, we need to get reform in power so that they can pave the way for the triumph of nationalism. This is just the stuff of a dream world. Truly it is. It is delusion, clinical delusion. And as I said, whoever crafted this ridiculous idea just needs to be removed from the ranks of nationalism. Reform is the enemy of nationalism. Nigel Farage absolutely detests nationalism, particularly ethno-nationalism. Farage, what more can we say about him? The man is a snake. He's the master of U-turns and false promises. He truly is what the Remainers described him, a unicorn seller. You know, if people haven't learned from the unicorn he sold with Brexit, then they never are going to learn. You know, we have Brino and immigration on a historic scale because of Nigel Farage, because he is the little runaway boy. And at every opportunity he's given, he delights in telling people how opposed he is to nationalism. How on earth can anyone possibly think that reform is going to pave the way from nationalism? So let me bring you back to the real world, which is where I want people to live, with me, in actual fact. So what usually happens when a so-called right-wing government fails badly is that there's then a swing to the left. So if there's a swing to the left after the failure of reform, and it will be a massive disappointment, how on earth does that aid and abet nationalism? So what? The resurrection of Labour, or a coalition between Labour, the Lib Dems and the Greens? I mean, come on, you know, this just isn't the stuff of the real world, is it? It is just absolute nonsense. And in a sense, I think it actually demonstrates the extent to which some nationalists have become so desperate that they are in actual fact even more desperate than the people who've been seduced by deep fake reform. I guess it's entirely natural when a nation is in its death throes. And another delusion I'd like to shatter, and this is why I don't go campaigning on the doorstep anymore, in actual fact, because I will not tell British voters that they've been robbed, cheated and betrayed. Particularly in the context, we were never asked. On the contrary, the British were not so much asked, but told about mass immigration. They were told about the common market, the EEC and the European Union. When they finally got their act together and voted at the EU ref to leave the EU, they did absolutely nothing to enforce it. And that was the bone of contention I had as the leader of Stronger Out, that it will not simply happen of its own accord. There has to be an enforcement process. In other words, you can't just come out of the shadows and cast a ballot and expect your ballot, your vote to be respected and everything will be wonderful and you can just go back to the shadows and carry on trusting in the establishment. But that is exactly what happened after the EU ref. Millions voted, they didn't get what they voted for, and they've done absolutely nothing since then to enforce that process, that vote. And in essence, the same sort of delusion is happening right now with this nonsense of we need to get fake Farage and deep fake reform in power because he's going to pave the way for nationalism. My goodness, have you not paid attention to any of the things that Farage has said about nationalists and ethno-nationalists in particular? I suggest you go away and take a damn good look, and particularly the things he said on the Winston Marshall show. I mean, it's quite a revelation. And it's not just that one occasion when he said it many times in actual fact. I mean, one of his favourite fantasies is that he destroyed the BNP. Well, I've totally and utterly blown that fantasy, that egocentric delusion out of the water with the BNP docu-series I've made. That's how the BNP rose and fall, and it had absolutely nothing to do with Nigel fake Farage and UKIP, a joke of an organisation, quite frankly, pumped and promoted around the clock by the mainstream media after Farage made a deal with the media, and that deal is still in force right now. So some nationalists are arguing that we should try and put an organisation which is a safety valve operation, an establishment safety valve operation, crafted to halt and curtail the rise of nationalism, in power, because somehow an organisation set up to stop us is going to put us in power. I think you must be on LSD or magic mushrooms or something equivalent, truly, because it just has no grounding in reality whatsoever. And these people are not helpful whatsoever to any nationalist organisation. My advice is, if they take root in the Homeland Party, for example, or the British Democrats, so forget PA, that's a joke of an organisation anyway, you know, then they really do need to be given their marching orders. They need to be brought up on their mistaken belief system and told that this is not what nationalists stand for. Nationalists have got to take on the centre-right. I mean, Farage barely even qualifies as centre-right these days. I suppose he did 15 years ago. Even at the EU ref, he was borderline centrist, centre-right. Today, he most definitely is not centre-right. He is 100% centrist, a fact which he has made perfectly clear. And this is the whole problem with Farage and his group is none of them pay attention to any of the U-turns and contradictions that he's made. They just carry on worshipping some idol crafted by the mainstream media. And he's nothing of the sort. You know, he's not a messiah. I've covered this before. If he is a messiah, he's from Monty Python, quite frankly. And he's not going to save Britain. He's certainly not going to save white people. We've seen both Farage and Ty say they are not concerned about white people becoming a minority in Britain. So why on earth would you want to put someone in power like them? Why would nationalists, ethno-nationalists in particular, no self-respecting ethno-nationalist would ever want to put two toxic anti-white trolls like Tice and Farage in power? And Tice said, what was it, just last week? Yeah, well, I'll be long gone by then. You know, that is the utmost selfishness of a multimillionaire and serial tax evader. A parasite, quite frankly, the Greenbelt rapist, who has destroyed this that you're looking at behind me as a result of mass immigration to feed the demand for housing caused by white flight syndrome. Why on earth would you want to put someone like Richard Tice and Nigel Farage in power? What actually needs to be done is this. Nationalists need to be focused, determined, and get on with the business of community building, grassroots politics, ingratiating themselves into local communities and building at the parish county level. And from this will spring forth an organisation that can actually rival the 1 million votes that the BNP got at its high watermark. And be in no doubt whatsoever, nationalism is never going to succeed with this ridiculous nonsense of we need to put deep fake reform in power because they're going to pave the way for nationalism. I mean, what planet are these people on? What planet are they on? They're certainly not on terra firma. Whatever they've been smoking, I advise them to stop. Probably it's impossible for them to do that because they're so far down the rabbit hole of Reform UK and the mainstream media, who have in essence created and promoted Reform UK. Its entire ratings is a mass media creation. Then there's no way out of that rabbit hole for them, quite frankly, and we don't need them. They need to be cast aside, left in that rabbit hole to their delusions. What we need to be doing, and we need to be doing far more of it, and I've laid down the gauntlet, and I'm not a member of any nationalist political party, but I've laid down the gauntlet to countless centre-right leaders, trolls, for want of a better description. That's certainly my experience of dealing with them, trolls. That's all they are in a troll factory. Because all they do is spout false and misleading information and fabricated allegations, which they can never substantiate when they're put to the test in a facts-based evidence contest. So my experience of dealing with them is that none of them will actually come and debate me. And why? Because they're afraid. So when people write on this channel, oh, you should interview Ed Dutton. Well, how on earth would that happen in the real world? Ed Dutton would never accept an invitation from me. I can't think of any reason why I would want to invite him onto the daily agenda, nor can I think of any reason equally why Ed Dutton would invite me onto the Jolly Heretic. And the reason why is because if he did, he would never recover from the backlash that would follow. And we're talking a real backlash. We're not talking about a few murmurs of dissent when he had Paul Goldilocks, aka Paul Golding, on. Oh no, absolutely not. No, Golding is well and truly, you know, a safety valve operator. He sold out years ago. I very much doubt he was ever a genuine and sincere nationalist anyway. That's always been my position on Goldilocks. So yes, there was a few murmurs of dissent after he had Goldilocks on there, and a few more after he had Homeland Party on there, and Kenny Smith. But believe me, if Ed Dutton had me on the Jolly Heretic, my goodness, the interview, let's say it went over 90 minutes, you'd only see 40 or 45 minutes of it, because it would be so heavily, massively edited, it wouldn't be worth watching. And I would never agree to any such interview unless I was simultaneously recording it to put it on my own channel so that people could actually see the entire interview instead of the edited highlights, the excerpts. Because believe me, what I would have to say to Ed Dutton would be very embarrassing for an awful lot of people. And Ed Dutton can't get the better of me, because I do have the facts to support what I'm saying about these people. But yes, I mean, absolutely. If Ed Dutton does want to have a go, it's fine by me. It's not a problem, but it's never going to happen, quite frankly. So, I mean, I wouldn't concern yourselves with delusions of that nature. On the contrary, you know, we have some guests coming up on the daily agenda who I find very interesting. One of them, in actual fact, is coming on to explain the remigration policy and the campaigning tactics, the overall strategy of nationalism today. And this is what I want people to focus on, instead of this ridiculous nonsense of let's put Reform UK in power so they can pave the way for nationalism to succeed. It's just infantile drivel. Truly it is. These people are not nationalists. I don't even know what they are. Are they hybrid nationalists, civnats, etc.? I don't even think they know what they are, but I know what I am. I know because I've always known, and I've known since I was 15 years old as a result of studying extensively. I know that I am a nationalist. I have never changed in that context once in all of these years. I am a nationalist. I want nationalism to succeed. I will only ever campaign for nationalism. I will never campaign to put a vile, rotten organisation like Deep Fake Reform UK in power on the mistaken assumption, some deluded fantasy, that they're going to do something charitable for us, inadvertently that is, of course, and pave the way for us to take power. Get a grip on reality. Get a grip. My goodness, honestly. Who brought you people into this world? Who brought you up with this deluded mindset? You know? And that's a problem, full stop, isn't it, in Britain, you know? It is just rampant, the deluded mindset in this country. A country utterly infested with fantasy and fairy tales and fiction of every description. And I would argue most of it is because millions of people have been addicted to the Hollywood fairy tale factory. And therefore they can't process anything that's real. And the mainstream media has taken such a grip over their lives that now they think, well, you know, if we put these con artists in Reform in power, they'll pave the way for our victory. Absolutely not. The only people that can pave the way for the victory of nationalism are nationalists committed to the nationalist agenda, purely, solely for nationalism, for the nation and for the people. Not for fake Farage and toxic ties. Come on, come back to the real world, and if you can't, go and join Reform. We don't need you, we don't want you. What we need is nationalists working for the nationalist cause.